I'm Kate with Girls Rock Denver, and I'm here to show you how to put together your drum kit. You have a kick drum, you have your 2 rack toms, you've got a snare drum, a floor tom, you have a tom bracket, and you might also instead have 2 tom arms. You have a snare stand, a throne, a kick pedal, a hi-hat stand, 2 cymbal stands, a ride cymbal, a crash cymbal, a pair of hi-hat cymbals, and your floor tom might have its legs separated, so if you don't know what these legs are doing, they go to your floor tom. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we have enough space. It's a good idea to have around 6 feet by 5 feet. If you're worried about your carpet getting messed up, maybe put some towels underneath your stands and drums. But if you have an entryway rug, feel free to put that down underneath your drums.
Why?
Things like these pokey little legs like to be stabilized by going into a rug and also into a carpet. So if you have really nice carpet, you might not want these to go through it. You can also circumvent that by adjusting these feet a little bit if you're on a hardwood floor, by having just the rubber parts and not the pointy parts out. When you set up your kick drum, usually the black side will be the side that's facing out and the clear side will be the side that's facing you. It's not always going to be the case, but in case you're not sure which side is supposed to be facing you, the tom mount should be a little bit farther away from you as opposed to closer to you. Also, usually there's a logo that'll be facing you. So when you extend the legs, they might look different on your drum, but the idea is just to get it as stable as possible going side to side or front to back. If you notice while playing your drum that it scoots backwards or forwards too much, you might want to put a rug underneath or a cinder block or something heavy in front of the drum to get it from moving around. Once you have your kick drum nice and sturdy, take your tom arms and put them into the drum. You loosen this wing nut and insert the tom brackets, leaving a few inches of space, and then tighten it. If you have this other kind of kick drum, you'll want to put these in separately and tighten them both like this. Take your first rack tom and thread it through this hole and tighten it. Your second rack tom, like so. The logos on these drums should also be facing up. If they're upside down, that means the drum's upside down. You may also want to adjust these to where the drums are closer to the player. And you may want to adjust this again to where the drums are lower for a shorter player. The only thing you don't want is the drums to be touching each other or the kick drum on the bottom. Next we'll set up our snare drum. You'll loosen this adjustment, widen the legs, and tighten it again. Then you have 3 other adjustment knobs. One that will control the height of the stands. You'll probably want it fairly low if your player is shorter. One that will control the angle of the drum. And this knob that will loosen and tighten these little grabber arms. So you want to loosen it so you have space to put your snare drum. Once you have enough space, put your snare drum in. Make sure the snare itself isn't touching anything, and then tighten it up. It doesn't need to be too super tight, but as long as it's nice and sturdy, that should be enough. Then you'll move it just to the left of your lower rack toms. The snare strainer is going to make it to where the snare is off or the snare wire is on. And you may have an adjustment knob here that will loosen and tighten that if it's buzzing or something like that. And the floor tom, you'll want to extend all 3 legs, or put the legs in if they're not already on the drum, just past the lip so that they're not going over the rim. And you want a good 90 degrees or so, sometimes 45 degrees, just to make the drum nice and sturdy. You'll do that with all 3. And then place it to where it's comfortable. Next we'll set up our throne. Most of the thrones will come in 2 parts. This telescoping kind. It's going to have these different holes for different heights, and little bolts and a wing nut that goes all the way through. If you loosen that just a little bit, you'll be able to insert the top port to where it fits into these little notches, and then you can tighten it again. Be careful, the pinch factor is high and you can really hurt yourself if you accidentally get your hand stuck in this telescoping part. And then you may have an adjustment knob here, or you might not, but you'll just extend the legs as wide as they can go so it's nice and sturdy. The kick pedal has this little tightening nut on the bottom. We'll loosen it up by spinning it counterclockwise. You lift the drum up slightly so that you can slide it on top of it, and then tighten it back down. Now we'll set up our cymbals. The hi-hat stand is always the most tricky, but should be able to loosen this knob to get the legs to extend, and then tighten it again. These little brackets that make it more sturdy will fit into some little holes on the bottom, or this will just be a solid piece and you won't need to mess with it. This part will raise and lower the hi-hat. And then the hi-hat clutch, you'll just want to loosen to take it off completely. Take your hi-hat cymbals, which are the smallest ones that you have, and it doesn't matter which one unless it does say top and bottom. Just put the bottom one on and let it sit there. You'll take your top hi-hat, unscrew the bottom nut, and take off the bottom felt. Place your cymbal on the thread, and then replace the felt and the nut. Tighten it as tight as you can, and then put it back on. To get a good ½ inch or so of distance between the hi-hats, you'll press your foot down on the pedal just slightly, and then tighten the hi-hat clutch. And then when you release your foot, you'll have a good little bit of distance. If you want even more distance, you can loosen it, bring your foot down even more, tighten it, and release. Set up your cymbal stands. Again, loosen the wing nut, widen the legs, and tighten it again. There's usually a height adjustment, which can be raised or lowered. You may have a boom arm, or it just might be a straight stand. This is a boom stand, but if we loosen this, we can move it up and down, or we can spin it. We'll put it at about a 45-degree angle and tighten it. For the top of the cymbal, we'll loosen that and have it pointing towards the ceiling and tighten it. You'll be able to tell that this is the correct way, because if I try to adjust this, I can bend it all the way back and down. But if the cymbal arm is upside down, it will be restricted from moving straight up to be pointed to the ceiling. You also want the boom arm to be over one of your cymbal stand legs for extra stability. If they have the arm angled this way where it's not over a leg, it has the chance of falling more. And then you'll put a cymbal on, loosen the top wing nut, and remove the top felt. Leave the bottom felt and sleeve on. The crash cymbal is the medium cymbal. You'll place it on top of the bottom felt, and the sleeve will keep the threads protected from the metal of the cymbal. Replace the felt and the wing nut. You don't have to tighten it too tight, as long as it's touching the felt, but enough to where the cymbal still has room to move. You may have a cymbal stand that comes in two parts. Again, you want to widen the legs, tighten it again, and then the boom arm is just like the other one. You'll thread it through this hole and tighten it. Again, it's over the leg, and the cymbal topper can point straight to the ceiling. Take off the top wing nut, put your ride cymbal, which is the largest cymbal, on. Replace the felt in the wing nut. Now we just put the cymbals around the kit and we're good to go. The hi-hat goes next to the snare drum at an angle from the throne to where the player can comfortably have their legs at a 45-degree angle and use both the hi-hat pedal and the kick drum.
So left leg on the hi-hat, right leg on the kick.
Unless they're left-handed and prefer to have it the other way, to where their right foot is on the hi-hat stand and their left foot is on the kick drum. And then you would maybe even switch the toms and the snare as well. But that's personal preference. The ride typically goes over the floor tom, and the crash can go either by the ride or above the snare drum. Make sure it has enough room to where you hit it, it's not going to hit any of the toms. You can scoot it up as close as you want. The cymbal should be in a comfortable place and not obstructing any of the other drums. So you might have to play with it a bit to get a good position. The hi-hat stand should comfortably be at about the same height of your elbow. The ride can be as low as you want it to be based on your playing style and your height. And that's about it.